And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be always acceptable to you, O God, my strength, my Redeemer. Amen. Y'all, I was looking at the calendar and noticed, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, certainly if you have local TV and you've been watching local TV, you've seen this, but we are about 2 months, give or take some days, from a national election. And over the course of this national election, as we gear up for it, no matter how it goes, right, some of the folks in this very room, some of us are going to be overjoyed and get what we wanted, and some of us are going to be heartbroken, disappointed, and not get what we wanted. It's inevitable. There will be difference and division there. I remember 4 years ago, about this time, it was really hard for a lot of folks. Not just because there was difference and division, but because of the amount of bitterness and sometimes outright lack of respect or love for one another that was happening, even within members of families. Some of y'all, some of us probably have family members that we disagree with, and it can make it hard, especially gearing up for say, Thanksgiving gatherings. And I had a lot of folks 4 years ago. It was a really hard time. And part of what I have loved about St. Stephen's, part of what I've loved so much from the day I got here, from before even the day I got here, when the search committee met with me and said, would you like to be our rector? And part of what I have always loved about St. Stephen's is this church's ability to come together and love one another, even though we don't agree about everything. To respect and honor one another, even when some of us get our way and some of us don't. We would still gather together at this altar rail, hold hands together, share the bread and the wine with each other, hug each other, offer forgiveness, ask for forgiveness. There's been an amazing ability in this church to really be those people who look beyond the differences, as Christ is talking about in his gospel lesson here, about not saying you can only be a body of people if you agree, but when you disagree, you still need to be a body of people. Now, here's my worry. My worry is right now we haven't been able to do so many of those things, right? We haven't been able to get together and kneel at the rail together and share that cup of wine and break bread together. We haven't been able to hug each other, offer the peace, to offer the forgiveness, to ask for the forgiveness. And the worry is, what do you do when you just have those political differences, but we don't have any of those things at St. Stephen's that have made us such intimate community with one another? That's my worry. So I look at the letter that Paul wrote to the Roman church. It's a brand new church. They were trying to figure things out. They didn't agree with each other about everything, right? The early church in Rome, they didn't agree about who should be allowed in and who shouldn't, about who to love and who not to love. They didn't agree about who should be forgiven or not. They came to Paul for advice. And the advice that he gives them here is basically saying to them, our time is limited. Don't take it for granted. He's telling this church in Rome, you don't know how much time you have. Treasure it. Value it for what it is. Because some of us, we may have months, we may have years, we may have decades. None of us know. But our time is precious. And not to squander it. Make the most of that time, and he advises us. He says, how do you make the most of that time? Well, remember, all those rules, all those laws, all those things that the law has heaped onto you, it's really just about loving your neighbor. Okay? That if you're spending this time we have together, remembering that thing, that the most important thing is loving each other, loving our neighbor. Remember what he said right earlier in the letter. We read this last week. If you come across someone in your community who's hungry, feed them. If you come across somebody who's thirsty, give them something to drink. Don't check to see if they're a Republican or a Democrat first. If you come across your enemy and they hurt you, love them. Love them even if they disagree with you about tax policy. Love them even if they disagree with you about immigration, right? Value this time that we have together. And the day will come when we will start to be able to come to this rail together and kneel together and hug and hold hands and share the kiss of peace and all those wonderful things. But until that time, we can make it our goal for at least the next 2 months to remember what it's that letter that Paul wrote to the Roman church, and to value loving one another, following the law as paramount. And maybe we might even be able to do it more than, say, the next 2 months. Maybe we just make that the rule from now on, right? If we do that, then even if you've got a Republican and a Democrat in a room together, even if you've got someone who's liberal or conservative or pro-life or pro-choice, and you get them together, you've got two people. And as Jesus said, when the two of you are there, Jesus is there with you. And so for that, we say thanks be to God. Amen.